Welcome, Freedom Warriors. How we doing today? My computer's bouncing. Anyways, I just got a couple things to talk about. I showed you I was going to do a show, so I put some stuff together. First thing, we got some J6 stuff going on. I hear my phone's going crazy. Can you guys hear me okay? Yep, there it is. All right, so you can hear me. Yeah, so J6 stuff, the Israel stuff going on. What else did I put on here? I wrote some stuff so I wouldn't forget. Oh, first thing, real quick, we got a message that Shane Jenkins left DC today. I don't know all the details, but apparently he left his belongings, his food, and so forth, or whatever, for the rest of the guys. And Officer Littlejohn decided she wanted it. I believe it's a she wanted it for herself, so she went and took it all and not allowed the guys to have it. So I think we're going to be putting a call to action together about that. I don't understand why an officer thinks they have a right to go take something that's not theirs when they gave it to other people. It doesn't make sense. But anyways, also another story of J6er that, yeah, it is terrible. It's I don't understand why an officer would do that, but I do believe it's the same officer that they were complaining about the other day, treating them terribly. Oh, wait. So with that, we've got J6 single mother faces up to 6 months in prison. Felecia Kenold is fighting to save her house and keep her children out of the government's hands. So she's got a little one. On January 6, 2021, Felecia Kenold ended a cross-country road trip with her brother Corey at the United States Capitol. Felecia and her brother were 2 patriots out of 1 million or more who attended President Trump's speech at the Olympics that day. Felecia is looking at possibly 6 months in prison. She is worried she will lose everything, including her children. Previously reported by the Gateway pundit, Felecia Kenold and her brother Corey were prosecuted as if they were part of the Proud Boy group, conspiring with them to obstruct Congress. Felecia and Corey were not Proud Boys and had just met members of the group that day, yet the Biden DOJ prosecuted them as Proud Boys anyway. Felecia famously told reporters that she was not even a boy, let alone a proud boy. Now this young mother is looking at just 6 months in prison by this wicked regime. A single mother of 2, Alexander is now 13 years old and Henry 2 years old. She works 2 jobs up to 80 hours a week, goes to school, and homeschools her son. She never dreamed that her attendance on January 6th would lead her to a turmoil she is in today. The turmoil of being behind on all her bills, paying for her legal defense, and securing a future for her children. This is taking a toll on this young mother. Oh, there we go. On February 11, 2021, she was subjected to an early morning FBI raid at her aunt's house, where at that time, Kenold was also the primary caregiver for her aunt. Over a dozen fully armed tactical FBI agents blocked off her street and arrested her. When taken to be questioned, Kenold declined to speak to the FBI, even after being told repeatedly she could view their folder of evidence if she would only speak to them. After they finally understood that she was standing hard on the invocation of her Fifth Amendment rights, she was taken to a federal prison in Arizona. While there, she spent almost 2 weeks in solitary confinement and was eventually released on her own recognizances, tethered to an ankle monitor that, after a period of time, allowed her to only go to work, school, or the store for censors. Initially, Kenold retained attorney Albert Watkins, who she would eventually fire because this liberal attorney initially advised his client not to do any interviews or media, that is, until he set his client up with Alexandria Pelosi, daughter of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, to interview Kenold and her brother for the January 6th documentary she was making for HBO. When Pelosi asked Kenold's then 10-year-old son, "How does it feel knowing your mommy is a terrorist?" Kenold immediately stopped the interview and sent the film crew and their host packing. Of course, this part was cut out of the documentary. However, being true to form, Pelosi managed to make Kenold, along with all the other J6 defendants who interviewed with Pelosi, look like ignorant and foolish Trump cult members. Isn't that crazy? Now, with her third attorney, Nick Smith, who she finds to be a great fit for her, she is signing a plea deal with the prosecution that comes with a recommendation of 0 to 6 months in federal prison. If she ends up serving any time, which in the case of J6ers happens quite frequently, she is afraid she will lose her job, her schooling, and possibly her children. Without adequate funding, she feels her children will not be able to get the caregiver they need to keep them away from GPS. Kenold goes to sentencing to find out her fate on January 25th, 2024. CondemnedUSA.com is asking for any assistance for Kenold and her children. And there's a link there to donate to Felecia there if you guys would like to do that. So I just wanted to bring that one to you guys. Then I did catch part of Benny Johnson earlier. He was doing a show with some of the Congress people.
That you had special counsel Jack Smith, who is being weaponized to go after President Trump, who they know is trying to basically just run his race unopposed, or not unopposed, but unaffected. They're utilizing this to go after them, but yet they try to levy this idea that USC 18, I believe it's section 231, talks about essentially weaponizing and going after criminal penalties for free speech, right? Well, they're doing the same thing with the J6 people. There's people who are sitting in prisons right now with no charges, no freedoms, no right to their due process as afforded to them under the Constitution, but yet Rashid Tlaib and these, pro-Hamas, which is a pro-terrorist organization, are allowed to run rampant amongst our capital and have no repercussions whatsoever. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. And you know what? Let them continue to try and play those games. My focus, as it has been since October 11th, is saving Americans abroad, because it's obvious the Biden administration is not going to do a single thing. They didn't do it in 2021. I went over in 2021 and conducted the first overland rescue of Americans out of Afghanistan, which is a mother and 3 children born and raised in Amarillo, Texas. To Marjorie's point, or like they were talking about with the base caucus, it's not even about being the base caucus. It's not a caucus that's tired of talk.
Yes.
And actually wants to do something. We're ready to be representatives, not politicians. Representatives, statesmen act, politicians talk. The one thing we don't have a shortage of in D.C. are politicians who want to talk. That's all we have, both on the left and the right. And that's why we need the base to come out.
So talk and versus action. There was a Hamas insurrection at the White House. They're going to keep doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. So Congress was the first target, White House next target.
Yes.
We're sitting there at the White House yesterday filming. It's like desecrated. They desecrate our monuments. Yeah. There's spray paint. Shockingly, all the spray paint says FJB.
Yeah.
What was that on the live? But all the spray paint is crude messages to Joe Biden. Hunter Biden could read them. Just do the 8-ball Hunter Biden. You can see it from your room at the White House. And you could. I mean, it's all there. And what? There was a J6er that shook a fence and now in prison for years.
Shook a fence that hasn't even gone into the Capitol at all.
Yo, I'm looking at X, and I'm seeing all this fence, and they're wiping red blood all over the fence.
Owen Schroyer, he's spent 30 days in solitary confinement.
Is anyone going to put a case?
Or Jimmy Brown, who's in Pinellas County right now, who's a former Special Forces, former Ranger, who is there providing medical aid to people on the outside of the Capitol, didn't even go in. He's still being held to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So it will only stop to take medicine, right?
Well,
when they take this, am I wrong?
These are terrorists. These are pro-Hamas terrorists on the streets. They just killed a 67-year-old Jewish man. That hit the news yesterday. Someone hit him on the head with a megaphone
in LA.
Yep. Children in college.
It's going to get out of control. And I agree with Corey. Too many people in Washington, not these gentlemen I'm sitting with right here, but too many people, and I'll call out Republicans too, want to be politicians, not representatives, and no one wants to hold this government accountable.
So you can refer to the Department of Justice, a criminal case, right? You would say, hey, this person criminally.
We can, but you know that they're not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything.
Look at what happened, all the riots in 2020. That's why it's so important that President Trump gets reelected.
That's right.
Because he's the only person that can genuinely change the trajectory of our country and can genuinely change the way the DOJ is working and all these. We can pass bill after bill after bill. We know that Chuck Schumer's not going to take it in the Senate. We can pass HR 2. We can pass defunding Jack Smith's investigation. We do all that. Schumer's not going to have any of that in the Senate. The only way to genuinely change the trajectory of our country is electing Donald Trump next year for president. He will completely change the way that the DOJ, the AG, our Homeland Security, the border, all of that is.
And all of us on this panel right here have endorsed the president. We know that he's exactly what we need in 2024. We need bold course corrections.
Yes.
We need not just policy change domestically, but internationally as well. He had the greatest foreign policy that we've seen in our lifetimes, whether it was the Remain in Mexico, China Phase 1 deal, Abraham Accords. You go on the plethora, holding the UN account, which I think we should defund at this stage. You know, the UN, in my opinion, stands for useless nations. And then looking at how we actually hold NATO accountable for their 2%, who's actually the most impacted by what is going on with the China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. President Trump understands that. And I'll be clear, not only is he the right person for it, but the things that are necessary to do, you cannot have a re-election looming over your head to do it, to have the moral and political courage to go forward. The only one out of this entire selection is President Trump, who doesn't have those things looming over his head that can go in and actually make it happen day one.
Who's being protected by the regime right now that catches a case on day one? Trump's DOJ. What would you advise Trump's DOJ, whoever would be Attorney General, who would you advise for them to go at? Would it be the
Joe,
would it be Biden?
We have checks, literally checks, $200,000, $40,000 written to Joe Biden from his brother Joe Biden. They are the crime family. They're the Biden crime family. They are so corrupt. Our Department of Justice needs to go after them.
And even the wires that uses his personal address as the verification for where the wire should be sent to.
Because that's just money laundering, right? So you report that you got a loan, you don't pay taxes on that. Like low level.
Well, think about it. It was a $400,000 payment to Hunter, of which it just so happens $40,000 check goes to Joe Biden. That sounds like 10% for the big guy.
It's a perfect 10%. The big guy. It's like actually the math works perfectly. It's 10%. So who would be Attorney General?
That's a great question.
I don't know. See, this is up to President Trump.
Yeah.
And I think President
I was
Trump,
talking with Ted Cruz last night, and he was like, we were in talks with Attorney General first term. And I was like, man, that would have been, that would have probably changed the course of the nation forever.
Yeah.
Actually, if you had had a strong Attorney General that wasn't such a pussy on.
Yeah. So lots of talk going on. I sure would love to see some action. That's the hard part about this is not seeing anything being done about it. It's like it just continues and continues. Everybody knows about it, but it just continues and nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. They are talking a big game and they sound like they know what they're talking about. It was good to hear that. I don't even know what the one congressman's name was that was in there, but he actually did bring up Jeremy Brown. So they are aware of the certain individuals and the circumstances that are taking place. And with that let's see this. I think this is the right. I'm gonna add this on. We'll see if
Your discussion of some visits to our prisons to get first-hand understanding of what's going on there. Some members of Congress have had challenges doing that. Could you give us some advice if we wanted to glean those benefits and get that first-hand experience? What's the best way for us to go about that with your team?
Thank you, Congressman. So if you have your team reach out.
So that is not the actual video that I was thinking of, but there was a video in that hearing, the same hearing of this video that I'm showing you, where Jessica Watkins was brought up, but not her name. She was just brought up about men and women being in a women's jail and so forth, and that was actually brought up by a Democrat because the one before that was trying to say, are we putting these men in jail with these women when they're biologically male? So they were trying to get at that point, and then the Democrat happened to know about Jessica Watkins and her situation and brought that situation up. Didn't mention her by name, but said we had this insurrectionist that led Oath Keepers up through. That was all a lie. It was actually when Officer Lieutenant, not Lieutenant, Officer, I forgot his name, Tarek Johnson, when he was actually, they were actually working with Tarek Johnson and the officer. So he's making it sound like they were leading an insurrection up the Capitol steps into the building, when actually they were helping Officer Tarek Johnson get to where he was trying to go. So, but the fact that they are being made aware of certain individuals and certain things that are going on, lets me know that the work that we're doing and the work that you guys are all doing out there with your phone calls and everything that you guys are doing, these people are becoming aware of what we're talking about, and it's going to get to a point where they're not going to be able to ignore it anymore, because so many people are going to know what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and finish playing this video with, forget who.
Legislative Affairs, we will be happy to make that arrangement.
Thank you so much.
So it's about the federal prison, and the this hearing is about federal prisons and the being in the hole. I can't remember what it's called right at the moment, but they call it something much nicer, restricted living quarters or something like that. So it was just an interesting back and forth here that I wanted to show you guys.
Does the Bureau of Prisons retaliate against people based on on constitutionally protected speech?
I have been very clear that retaliation will not be stood for on my watch.
And you're confident that that's being observed throughout the Bureau?
I'm confident that message has been delivered, and if anyone engages in retaliation, we will hold them accountable.
Are you familiar with the matter of John Strand?
That name is not familiar to me, no.
So Mr. Strand was a witness at a hearing that we had regarding some of the civil rights concerns of people who'd interacted with the Department of Justice in January 6 matters. He was convicted, sentenced at FCI Miami, and I had received word that he had been placed into enhanced confinement and into higher acuity securing as a consequence of information others had put out on his Twitter feed. So is that something does that ring a bell to you?
Congressman, I wouldn't be able to speak to an individual's circumstances regarding their behavior inside our institutions. What I can assure you is that if an individual is placed in our special housing unit, it would be for conduct that happened inside the institution.
So what's a special housing unit?
Special housing unit is one of our restrictive housing placements that could include disciplinary segregation, protective custody, and would house individuals that either were at harm to harm themselves or others, or had actually engaged in misbehavior inside our institutions.
What I'm worried about is that Mr. Strand gave us testimony about some of his concerns, and as you know, people give us testimony. We sort through what's right and wrong and should be acted on and shouldn't be acted on. It's not gospel, it's just testimony. But then thereafter, people were posting on some of his social media platforms concerns about the treatment he'd received at the Bureau. And then I sent a letter to you concerned about that, because like you, I don't want anyone retaliated against for constitutionally protected speech. And thereafter, I got a letter back from the aforementioned Office of Legislative Affairs in your office, and they say, in part, Mr. Strand was moved to a secure housing unit with increased supervision and frequent employee contact on September 26, 2023, pending completion of an investigation. So I guess my question is, when someone, is that like akin to what we would normally think about as solitary confinement? Those words, secure housing unit with increased supervision and frequent employee contact?
You would use the word restrictive housing.
Okay. So what's this then? Because this guy's a non-violent, he was never violent toward anyone, so I'm just wondering why the assets that we fund for the highest acuity violent people would be used for this purpose.
Congressman, we use that special housing unit for individuals that engage in any sort of misconduct inside our institutions. I don't know what he was found to be guilty of by our hearings administrative process that would warrant his need to go into restrictive housing. But I assure you, we have administrative processes that people have to go through before those placements actually occur.
Yeah, I get that you can't know the conditions of every single prisoner throughout the Bureau. This is one I've ripened and sent to you because I am worried that throughout our Department of Justice and what we've endured, that there's some people who are being used as pawns and they're being mistreated in order to send a message to other people. And I'm grateful that you said here that is not your doctrine. You don't want to see that happen, but you also haven't been able to share with us an entire confidence that that isn't happening in some cases. And I'm worried that it's happening here. Have you heard of the matter of Owen Schreier?
No, that name is not familiar to me.
Very similar fact pattern. You know, somebody who'd sort of spoken out, was prominent in the public, was convicted as a consequence of activities on January 6th, and now feels as though there's specific Bureau of Prison retaliation. I don't think any group of people should be retaliated against. So I look forward to taking you up on the offer to perhaps go in and do some site visits and see.
Yeah, so hopefully he'll be able to get those site visits and go in and see some things. But of course, we know when they go in, everything's fixed up. They know how to answer the questions, all that sort of stuff. So, anyways, hello, Carol Burton, Mary Roland, Julie Jordan, Shadow, Naomi, Katie Harmeyer, welcome. Roy Lung, Cleo, hello Cleo. Annette, sorry about that. Oh yes, don't forget to call about Dominic Pizzola. With that whole situation that's going on, we did a call to action last night. So it's good to hear them talking about specific situations. Of course, I know John Strand and Schreier are journalists, and they're well known, and that's probably why he knows of them and he's speaking about them. But at least he's trying to bring attention to the things that need to be brought attention to. We don't always have that, so I thought it's good to see them actually discussing things that they need to be discussing. They need to just go out and do it. Hello, Linda, Mac, Priscilla Victor, Patty Lee. If you're all still here, welcome. And over on Getter, I think we're live on Getter. I think live on Twitter. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Facebook over there. And Rumble. Welcome, Rumblers. Let's see if I can see who all's over there. Hello, Susan K. Spencer. Sorry about that. Team Undy, welcome. All right, so I got a little bit more for you. Let's see. Oh yes, I wanted to show you. I'm going to present this to you. Just 1 second. This is about the Israel and the Hamas and all that sort of stuff going on.
With our most precious ally, Israel. We will do everything in our power to ensure that Israel has the
What is going on?
resources to return every last hostage to their family from these Hamas terrorists. With that, I am honored to introduce our Speaker of the House, a great friend of Israel, Speaker Mike Johnson.
Thank you. Well, it's been said here, but today is the 1-month anniversary of Hamas's horrific attack on the world's only Jewish state. The atrocities of that day and those following it have left a dark and indelible stain on the entire world. Everyone can see the atrocities. And as the Prime Minister Netanyahu said very clearly, this is a battle between light and darkness, between good and evil. As our cherished friend and ally Israel fights for its survival against the Iran-backed terrorists of Hamas, we will continue to stand up for human dignity and offer moral clarity. House Republicans understand that this moment demands decisive action, and we insist that we cannot waste any more time getting Israel the aid that it desperately needs. That's why, as the first act of my speakership, we passed a resolution condemning Hamas and reaffirming our solemn commitment to Israel. Days later, with bipartisan margins, we passed the Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations Act to provide billions in assistance to Israel in its time of great peril. And as we mark the 1-month anniversary of this attack, House Republicans met with and heard from family members of some of the victims, not only to understand their grief and pain and worries, but to make clear why Israel must do everything in its power to wipe out Hamas and ensure that what happened October 7th can never happen again. I am honored to introduce these families to you today. And joining us here, I'll introduce, is Doris Lieber, who is representing her son, Guy Elus. Guy is a 26-year-old musician who is living in Tel Aviv. He was enjoying the Nova Music Festival on October 7th when the attack happened. All his friends were murdered, and Guy sustained a gunshot wound while running away. There has been no update on his condition since October 7th. Also with us is Jonathan Lulu Shemriz and Idu Lulu Shemriz, who are representing their brother, Elon Shemriz. Elon is a 26-year-old computer science student living in Kfar Aza, who was kidnapped from his home by Hamas terrorists. His family has worked around the clock to receive information about his health and his whereabouts. And finally, Liran Bamir, who is representing his brothers, Ziv and Gali Bamir. Ziv and Gali are 26-year-old twin brothers, both working in the music, sound, and lighting industry. They are inseparable best friends and young adults who love traveling the world. They were abducted from their home on October 7th, and the family has received no update on their health since. I would ask them to come forward, and we'll start with Ms. Doris. If you'd like to speak for a moment, we'd invite you to do so.
Oh, sorry about that. So, yeah. I've heard that Julie Jordan and Mike Johnson released the J6 tape to the Blaze, but I'm not positive on that. And even if they did, I bet there's a lot of stuff missing. But if you have some confirmation on that, I'd love to know exactly for sure what did take place with that, because I honestly do not know for sure. I can't say one way or the other. But there was a couple other things that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah, I'll show you that here in a little bit. Looking through my chat here, I put some stuff at the front here. Let's see. Okay, Shane Jenkins, Officer Lil John, I already told you about that. Yes, so we'll go ahead and go over to these a couple videos of where the U.S., like the air base over in Turkey, is has got Hamas over there carrying on, doing things to them. There's a couple of videos like that. I'll show you real quick. So I don't remember if that was actually in Turkey. There's videos, and I can't remember exactly which video was where. But, they're doing it all over the world. The Hamas is coming out all over the place. So there's stuff going on everywhere. You know, it's we need to be careful. They're warning us that, you know, the FBI raised saying that there's going to be stuff happening here in the U.S. that we're at possible risk of attacks and all kinds of stuff. So we just need to be vigilant about where we're doing, you know, who we're with, make sure that we're keeping the head on our swivel, guys, because it's a mess right now. And the video I was trying to show you guys last night, I don't know if it's the same video or not, but while we were in DC at our vigil, we had this going on in New York City.
Come on, do I hear you in the back? Come on, Times Square. Lift up a shout of praise. If you came expecting to see the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, show up tonight. Tonight, we stand on the shoulders of generations of praying grandmothers, praying great-grandfathers, generals of the faith that cried out for revival to come to this city, to come to this nation, and to come to this world. So I want to hear one more time, are you ready for revival? I don't know what you battled to get to this place tonight, but this is a defining moment for many of you. Maybe you battled addiction, maybe you battled family strife, and it was a struggle to get here. But the fire of revival is being sparked in the crossroads of the world and is going to be sent out tonight. And so I hope you came expectant, because we're going to let the entire island of Manhattan hear us tonight, amen? And so right now, before we kick this thing off, because once it starts, there's no stopping it, I need you all to take out your phones right now. I need you to take out your phones right now, because Pastor Mike Signorelli, come on, who's grateful for Pastor Mike for putting this event together, this historic event? He wants to make sure that he can stay connected with you. He wants to make sure that when he's in your town, your city, your region, you know about it. Because how many know revival is going to spread? The dominoes are going to keep dropping. So I need you right now to text the word revival to this number. I'm going to give you a second to find it. I want you to text the word revival. And why don't you go ahead and put it into all caps just because. Text the word revival to 347 329 3476. Do you need to hear it again? 347 329 3476.
All right, guys. So I don't have much more for you. I want to also, real quickly before I go, I just want to share something else with you. I've mentioned this, but if you guys have not checked out Robert Govea over on YouTube, please go do that. He's got some great stuff. He's just describing the situation with the election fraud that's going on, I believe, in Connecticut. Is that right?
That's her. Wanda.
Go back a little bit.
violation, and we've got to restore honesty to this. So let's watch this video.
I got your back, Mayor.
That's her, Wanda. She comes walking in. Multiple illegal absentee ballots you can see in her hand. Walking across with a big old bag. Looks like she still has her name tag on. 5:42 a.m. Multiple illegal absentee ballots being deposited into the ballot box. Walking away. And back again with another stack. 5:43. $6.38. Another day. What's that stack right there? Looks like a whole stack. Second drop. Third drop. Looking around. Right there. September 5th. She preps for another deposit. Got a stack. Walking out the door. This time she sends an employee to make a fourth deposit. So this guy's going to go drop them in. She's going to hold the door open. Hey, can you go drop these off? I've been doing a lot of it lately. Multiple illegal absentee ballots being deposited into the ballot box. Walking back inside. Three of the Joe Bridgeport mayoral campaign recommended for criminal charges. Nearly 4 years after the Hearst investigation into the alleged misuse of the absentee ballots in the contentious Bridgeport Democratic mayor that was narrowly won by Mayor Joe Ganim, state election officials have recommended possible criminal violations by 3 people aligned with the mayor's campaign, including a member of the city council and the chief state's attorney. Election stolen, voter.
Yeah, so I just want to show you guys. If you guys have not went over there and checked his stuff out, you should go over and do that. He's great. He explains a lot of stuff in a way that you can understand it. And, you know, for us simple people who don't understand the legal aspect and the work and, you know, how they list everything out, he explains it in a way that we can understand it much easier. Yeah, and I never did check that out last night, W Daisy Girl. I meant to check that one out, and I forgot to do that. I did watch him this morning. I did see that he called us out again this morning, so that was awesome to hear. He's a great guy. And Mary, I seen you had a question. Let me go back here and look at it real quick. I'll answer it the best that I can. I can't promise you anything. When was the last time Gulag toured and by who? There was actually a couple of Democrats and a couple of Republicans. I can't remember exactly when it was. How many months ago was that? It's been several months. Anybody remember when that was exactly? But I think Bobert, MTG, I think Nels, was it Nels that went in? Nels went in and got them the visitation. I think it was somebody else this last time, but there was also a couple, Crockett, I think Crockett went in. It was a Democrat. 2 of the new freshman Democrats went in, of course, you know, that, and, you know, they talked to the guys and so forth. I don't really know what came of it, really. I mean, at least they're trying to bring some of this stuff out, you know. done in a small town election. I'm sure it was done in a, but yeah, that's the whole point is that if it was done in that town with the Democrats versus a Democrat election, so it was a Democrat versus Democrat and they still had to steal it, right? So if that's happening like that in a little town like that, and we know that, and the judge is saying it did happen, how do we know that it didn't happen all over the country? And how do we know that all these people that went to January 6th had a right to be there because their grievance was justified? They had a grievance, and it's justified. But you know, they silenced us and did all kinds of stuff to try not to get that. And I hope I answered you okay, Mary. I don't remember the exact date. It's been several months ago. I know it was hot that day, so it was during the summer. But they did go and they talked to the guys and stuff. Not really much came of it. The visit that Troy Nels did a few months before that, which I think was January, I think, if I'm right. And with that, he did get the guys the visitation. That's when we started being able to have visits with them and so forth. So there has been some things that have come out of them going there. You know, so anybody got any questions or anything before I go? I just want to say thank you to everybody over on Rumble, everybody on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Getter. Getter we're streaming to newly. And somebody did send me a link this morning where I guess Rumble is going to be putting out their own platform where you can actually stream to all these different locations, YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, locals. You'll be able to stream to locals through a Rumble platform. So we're on that waiting list. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. And you're actually able to do interviews like StreamYard does, where you're able to have other people in and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see the platform come out. And I'm really anxious to try it out. Hopefully they've got the sound and all that stuff figured out with their system, and hopefully it's easy to use out in the field too, where you can zoom in and things like that. Prism, you can do a lot of that stuff. It's made for your phone. It's really good. So hopefully it'll be a good platform, and we'll be able to do some more stuff with that and get out to more and more people. So be looking for that. Hello, Monk. Tammy Green, Trump could not show any credible facts that the election was stolen. Each incident he took to court, over 60 were tossed out by his own judges. JD Hammer, please go do some Harmeyer, whatever it is. Sorry about that. Please go study those cases, bud, because there was only 3 that came back no, and the rest of them were thrown out because of technical. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was they wouldn't see the evidence. So the evidence was never seen in most of those cases. So I'm hoping that through this January 6th stuff and all this persecution they're doing against Trump, he'll be able to bring out that evidence. And I believe he will. I believe that you're going to see it. And I think that you're going to realize that you've been misled. And I believe that you may have to do some apologizing to some people, because the way that you're spreading that kind of misinformation is not exactly a great thing to have going on. But you need to look it up yourself, investigate it, see what it's all about, and don't just come on people's stuff and start saying stuff. Well, I trust that the information is going to come. I'm going to say this, JD. I trust that the information is going to come out during these cases, and that we're all going to get to see what actually took place. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I believe we're going to see the true facts come out. Guys, I really don't have much else for you. We went over a little bit. I'm going to try to do this more often. Love you guys. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you about 6:30 down at the corner. Make sure you join us tonight at the corner. Have the vigil and stand with the J6 Defendants. And we'll stand and sing the National Anthem with them at 9 o'clock like we do every night, guys. Thank you all. You have a great day, and we'll see you in a little while. Freedom Warriors, out.